Welcome, friends and enemies, to episode 66 of the Adventures of the Bane Glorious. We have everybody here. We have Kathryn.
Hello.
We have Jess.
Hello.
We have Simon.
Hello.
And we have Ed.
Hello.
Oh, we have Mr. Ed. I apologize. Last time, you had made it back to Yartar and were going to have a discussion with the paladins at the Order of the Gauntlet to both let them know that Thelios had passed away and also to try and gain some information on where he might have originally come from. You met Varden again and passed on the news, and he then took you back to the Order of the Gauntlet's base, where you passed on the news to Amir, who was the Order of the Gauntlet's captain. She gave you the information that Thelios seemed to have come from a small village in the north called Duskleaf. You then went to see if you could find some more information from some merchants or some traders who might have gone that far north, but in fact actually went to the place where the mercenaries and farmhands and everybody plied their trade. Lor'athel spoke to a group of them, beat their leader at dice, and managed to convince her to come both to give you information on Duskleaf and to consider a job offer at the Strikebreakers Tavern. The job offer was that she and her company, the Harrying Harpies, would go north and see if anything was happening in Fort Argent, see if it was protected, see if there are any moths around, and took a little bit of convincing and an upping of the offer, but she eventually agreed. You then, having got the information that Duskleaf was one of 3 villages within the Moonwood, which is part of the Glimmerwood, which is the larger forest north of Silvery Moon, and that also nobody tended to go to Duskleaf because they weren't welcoming to outsiders, you then decided that you would use plane shift through Erallur's cuirass to shift into the ethereal plane outside Duskleaf. You spent the night in the ethereal plane just listening in on conversations and gleaning a little bit of information about the old man who also went by the name of Duvaina and appeared to be unwell. You then went back into the material plane the next morning and spoke to a person who identified themselves as Siane, who was the parson of the village. He gave you a little bit more information, but said that he was not aware that a person called Thelios or who had the surname Sharnadel had ever lived in the village. And also, after Flint was a bit blunt with the reason for the old man being indisposed, revealed to you that it was because he was unwell and didn't want to cause a panic in the populace. You then bade him good day, having discussed a little bit of the music festival as well that was coming up on Greengrass the first day of spring. Went to Moonvines and Starbark, the other 2 villages, but found no more information regarding Thelios' origins from them. You returned to Duskleaf in the evening, just on the outskirts, and during the middle watch at around midnight, Starfy, in the body of Truffle, had spotted something that he pointed out to Erallur. She then saw an ethereal green light appear through a wall of one of the houses, followed swiftly by a spirit that was hollow-eyed and seemed to have a wound in its chest. That's where we are. Lor'athel is still meditating. The other 2 are still asleep. Erallur, you are awake with Starfy. What would you like to do?
So, just to clarify, the figure came out of house rather than into
Yes.
house.
No,
Okay.
came out of.
And does it look like a residential building, or is it?
It looks like a home, yeah.
Okay. I can't remember which watch I took. Is it which one? Like middle of the night?
It's midnight.
Yeah. So, okay. Can I see any lights on in this house?
Make a perception check.
14?
You can't. No, the house is entirely dark.
Okay. Did it look like a creature that I recognise?
It seems to be a woman and seems to be of elven origin, but she is in disarray and seems to have that wound that I mentioned, and her hair is a little bit wild, and she's also seemingly got no eye in the sense that they're both quite blank black sockets.
Okay. And which direction is she going in?
She moved out of the wall and then starts to float to the right around the corner that you saw the wisp of green light go a few minutes before.
Okay, right. I'm going to nudge Lor'athel
Okay.
as an elf. He knows about elf things.
It's true.
Lor'athel, you are nudged awake.
But
Shh, shh.
what is
I'm
that?
going to cover his mouth.
That when I've already started talking, like, what? No!
No, after you've finished. What's going on?
I look up at you expecting.
There's a ghostly figure. It's just going around that corner. If you look quickly, you might see it.
I look.
Make a perception check.
22.
You see the back of an ethereal figure as it goes round the corner and then seemingly back into the house.
Do you think we should investigate? Or is this a
Yes.
normal thing?
I definitely think we should investigate.
Okay. We should wake up the others then. I'll take Juniper.
From my experience of being an elf,
Using my elf sense.
ghosts in elven culture, are they a normal thing or is it unusual as it would be?
Roll a history check.
That's your 20.
Yes. Very good at being an elf.
Yeah, elven ghosts not
I'm bad at
usually a thing. The belief is that elves live a lot of lives. They have past lives that go down the generations, and as they get older, they start to have memories come through of their previous lives, and they start to mount to such a point that they, around 800 to 1,000 years old, they start to bleed into each other, and the elf starts to become something else and isn't necessarily sure what life they're living. So it can really mess with their psyche and things. But this means that usually when an elf passes away, it will pass into a new life and its soul will be collected by Corellon and then passed into a new elf. So elven ghosts not normally a thing. You know that sometimes when elves have died in a particularly unpleasant way, or they've been betrayed and killed, that they become banshees. And the first banshees were elves. They've since spread into other races through different magics and things, but the original banshees were of elven creation. So it's possible that this is a banshee, but you don't think so.
Hmm.
And this would suggest that this is unusual.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll wake up Juniper.
Okay, Juniper, you are awoken by Erallur.
Juniper, we're going to do some investigating, but you have to be quiet.
She's barking quite loudly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be quiet, but I'm not going to put my hand on her mouth because she might bite me.
Oh my God.
That's dog racist.
That's like saying, oh, if I punch this human, he might, punch me back. That's racist.
Punching and then there's covering somebody's mouth.
We're going to do some investigating because we saw a ghost.
Good ghost.
Yes. Would you like a snack?
I would love a Juniper snack.
Oh no.
I don't know if I have any. I probably have something.
When I wake up, can I look for the brick that looks like it's animated a slightly different way to all of the others?
You may, but it depends whether your friends wake you up.
I mean,
Because
that was
they haven't
Lor'athel's
yet.
fault.
We don't want to scare the ghost.
I'm not waking him up. I'm looking at Lor'athel to make him wake up Flint.
Why would you just look over at me like, go and wake up?
Because we were waking up one each,
Okay.
and I chose
Right.
Juniper.
I love that
With-
in this scenario, the thing that is most scary is not the ghost. It's waking up Flint.
Yeah. I mean, you did only go to sleep about 2 hours ago, Flint, so you're
Yeah.
not well rested.
Frankie.
True.
Having seen this standard look of annoyance from Erallur, and this plan having not been verbalized, I look away and look back to the house to see if I can see anything happening.
Okay, make a perception check.
We just leave Flint then.
Natural
Forever.
20.
Natural 20 again. You're really using these at the right moments.
I'm really using the Zoom format.
So you wait for maybe a minute, and then the green light shimmers back into view, and then the ghost comes back through the same point on the wall and starts to float back around in the same course.
Okay.
So it comes out the way it first came out, rather than
Yeah.
coming out where it went in.
No.
Okay. Interesting. So it's just doing circles.
It looks like it's on a loop.
no, another time loop.
A ghost loop.
Do you want to maybe wake up Flint, Lor'athel?
I kick him.
Oh,
This is why he doesn't like being woken up.
Yeah.
I just. What?
Put my fingers to my lips and then nod over towards the ghost house. Ghost house.
Make a perception check, Flint.
Well, that went about as well as expected. 7.
You see nothing. You have no idea what Lor'athel is directing you to.
It's a ghost house.
A ghost. A ghost.
Lor'athel thinks we should investigate.
You don't get elven ghosts. Something's wrong here in the ghost house.
I am not calling this episode Ghost House.
Damn it.
Remind me how far away we are from said ghost house.
I think you'd probably, just to be safe from people seeing you, have kept 80 feet away in the tree line.
Yeah, I feel like that's what you said last time. Okay, cool.
And in terms of geography, obviously I've only been told about the ghost, I've not
Mhm.
seen it, but in terms of the house, how populated building-wise is this particular area? Is it fairly separated from everything else, or are there other buildings near?
There are other buildings nearby. The village isn't very big. There's only a few buildings that have been built away from the road. This one is on the road, so it's one of the older houses, but it's as well kept as the others. It's also had a story added to it at some point. With your knowledge of stone and building particularly, even though this building is made majority out of wood, you can see that there is fresher material on top. So it's a little bit grander than the rest, but not massively.
Okay.
I can't remember if we were told what any of the buildings were.
No.
It's not one that we would recognise.
No.
Okay.
I look at the others and so Lor'athel, you say that there aren't often ghostly happenings around elven communities?
No, it's commonly believed that the spirit of an elf goes straight into another life when he dies. If it's hanging around, that's bad.
Is it possible that it's not a spirit of an elf, but it just looks like a spirit of an elf?
Why don't we go and look?
The Stanley Parable music Ghost Edition. Is that?
The ghost sees us coming in. It's just like,
Yeah, it's been standing there watching you for a while. So do you go over towards the house then?
I think very quietly, hopefully.
Okay. Roll the stealth check then.
no.
Oh, that's
With my
okay.
+0. Okay. 19.
19 for me as well.
Oh.
Gosh. That was really rubbish.
I rolled a 19 and then a 20, but then the 20 tipped over to a 14.
Oh.
That's still okay.
That's still pretty good.
So I got a 10.
Okay, that's fine. So collectively, your average is well over 10. So you're pretty good. You sneak over. Lor'athel, very aware that he could make quite a lot of noise, so actually holds part of the armor, particularly the plates that go over the top of the legs, just so that they don't clank together. You go over. The ghost doesn't seem to have noticed you as it starts yet another loop. and
How
then
long does it
goes-
seem to stay inside for? Does it seem like it's staying inside longer than it would take to just continuously walk around?
It's
that make sense?
difficult to tell, but through the windows that you can see the green ethereal light moving from room to room, which suggests it not going in a strict circle, but seems to be actually going around the different rooms of the house
Okay.
before coming back out again and then going back in.
Mm.
Thinking ahead for worst case scenarios, does Lor'athel know if ghosts can be harmed by standard physical attacks, or is it only particular?
Roll an Arcana check for that.
21.
Given your previous experience of combat and weaponry, you've never really fought spirits before, but you know that usually they would likely, because of their basis in the ethereal plane, be less damaged by normal bludgeoning slashing attacks. But if you have a magical weapon, which you do, it would do the normal amount of damage. That's a very meta way of saying it, but essentially your attacks would probably work if you used the sword rather than your axes.
Mm.
So how close do you go to the house?
I suppose at the moment we're already close enough to see the light through the windows. I feel like, and I'm saying this to the group, maybe we should just make our presence known and go and speak to them. Because I don't think we're going to get into this house without them seeing, since they're going round and round.
If it can see us.
That's true.
Just go and wait by the doorway that it goes in, and wait for it to come around.
Yeah. So we'll wait till it goes past us, and then we'll go stand there and wait for it to come back out again.
Okay. Again, about a minute passes before it comes back out, and you see the light before you see it come round the corner. And as it comes round the corner, it doesn't seem to spot you, and then just drifts through you, Lor'athel, and you feel like you have just stood under a waterfall.
Mm.
It is so cold that you could almost be back up on the high ice, but it just drifts through you and then drifts through the door.
That was highly unpleasant.
Do I smell anything?
Oh, roll a perception check with advantage for sniff.
To sniff. It's very important.
It is.
It's a deep part of my repertoire.
The ghosts smell, that's what I want to know.
Exactly. We've got to find out these things. That's a 23.
You do smell something. It's a mix of lavender and sage, but both smell burnt.
Erallur, I think ghosts smell like flowers on fire.
That makes sense, actually. Ghosts smell like flowers on fire.
Juniper nods sagely.
Good pun, good pun.
Yes, pun. It's intended.
Okay, maybe we should just go in, seeing as it doesn't see us. I don't know, is that breaking and entering? Is the door open?
Do you check the door?
What, can I see a door?
You can, yes.
And it's
entering
closed.
through the door, yeah.
Is it breaking and entering to go into a house that has a ghost in it?
I mean, does the house look in good condition, or is it dilapidated?
No, it's in good condition.
Oh, okay.
All the houses here are in very good condition.
Shall we knock on the door?
Give the door a gentle push.
There is a latch, so it doesn't open, but it doesn't appear to be locked. There isn't a definitive jerk of your hand going against a lock. It appears that you could just lift the latch and it would open.
It's unlocked.
Okay. I'm just going to stand and wait for Lor'athel to make the decision as the person standing by the door.
I mean, he's an elf, so
So he's allowed in other elves' houses. Is that how it
He
works?
knows the
We
etiquette.
don't all know each other. Yeah, okay. I gently, stealthily, I suppose, unlatch it and...
Okay, make another stealth check.
Oh. 10.
So there's a little bit of jostling in the click of you opening the latch very carefully, and then there's an ever so slight as the door opens, but then it opens on a fairly dusty corridor that opens into a couple of rooms to the right. It's a fairly wide space in the sense that there is less designation between different rooms to other buildings that you see. And you see that a lot of it is covered in quite a lot of dust. It doesn't look like many people have been down here for quite a long time, although the furniture and the work surfaces in the kitchen, which is to your left, and the stools and table to your right, appear to be very well made and very well kept, other than the quite thick surface of dust within. Nobody seems to react to you opening the door.
Yeah, and with the dust, it would seem that either somebody is not very house proud, or well, are there any footprints?
Make a perception check.
9.
There are a few sets of footprints that lead from the corridor towards what you suspect to be stairs, but it's difficult to discern how many sets there are, whether it's just one person who's walked through a few times, or whether it's multiple people.
Can we see if they're recent or if there's a layer of dust over the top of that?
Make a survival check for that. As you stand in the doorway, again, Lor'athel, there's a cold shower feeling as the ghost goes through you again.
14?
It appears that some of the footsteps have a little bit of dust on them, but there is a fresh set that would have been from either today or the day before.
And there's no sense tool that the ghost is paying any attention to any of its surroundings or anything?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
Can we see now that we're vaguely inside? You said it was going room to room. Can we
Yeah.
see more about what's happening there?
Yeah, it seems to be going around the perimeter of each room, but it actually, when it goes into the kitchen, it disappears from your sight because of where the wall is briefly, whereas the lounge is a bit more open and you can see that a little bit better from your vantage point.
And does it look at anything, or is it looking straight ahead or something?
Given the time that it spends in the kitchen, it seems like it might be pausing there for a moment before moving on. Just how quickly it's going around and gliding, it moves a little bit more slowly through the kitchen for some reason.
Okay. You said that it didn't really have eyes,
No,
so we can't actually see where it's looking anyway.
no.
Okay. Can I poke my head in the kitchen?
Yeah? Do you wait for it to be in the kitchen to do that?
Yeah, so if it's, I'm not quite sure which direction it's going, but if it goes
kitchen
in.
to your left,
Yeah.
and it goes right first into the lounge, round the lounge, round down to the bottom of the corridor where you suspect the stairs are.
Yeah.
Goes back up, goes into the kitchen, pauses when it's outside, and then goes back out through the wall.
So can I look through once its back is to me, if you see what I mean?
Yeah? Okay, make a perception check.
That's great. 12.
Okay, so you see that it seems to pause at a portion of the wall facing the window above the sink, and you know that it comes out from near that window, but then it seems to slump slightly, pauses for another moment, then gets back up into the float and moves back around. With its back to you, you can't see why it's slumping or what it might be looking at.
Okay. I'll just silently gesture to the others. Perhaps we should go in here.
Instead of going straight in, I go to the bottom of the stairs and look up.
Okay, can you make another stealth check? I'm presuming you're wanting to be quiet, of course.
Well,
okay, so your boots slightly muted by the dust, but it is louder than perhaps you would want it to be. Slowly clank through, and you can see that the stairs actually spiral, so it's difficult to see what might be at the top. It's a fairly contained column. Again, you see footprints that lead up the stairs, and you can see that there is a little bit of light coming down from one of the upper floors. You're not sure which one, but it spills down. It looks like there is a light somewhere that is
like
lit.
daylight, like natural light?
No,
or?
it's flickering like candlelight. I don't know whether Erallur told you this, I presume she did, but she couldn't see any lights on. So it may be that there is a contained room upstairs with no windows.
Because when I looked back over at the house, there was a green light pulsing, but I'm assuming that was the ghost down there.
Yeah, whereas this is orange candlelight.
As they're looking in the kitchen, I creep up the stairs.
Okay, make another stealth check then, please. Are the rest of you looking in the kitchen?
Yep, I haven't noticed that he's gone.
Okay, so are you standing in the kitchen waiting for the ghost to come round again?
I think I'm going to stand by the window that it is getting stuck at.
Okay.
And so I can get a better view to see what it's doing.
It's like a fly. It's like,
Okay. So, as the three of you wait there, the ghost comes round again, pauses right in front of Erallur, and there seems to be a moment where the wound on the chest heals before a ghostly sword stabs into the chest and makes the wound again. And at that point, you see the figure slump. The sword disappears, the wound drips, a few drops of green that steam off the floor, and then it starts its circuit again as the sword disappears.
Which direction did the sword come from?
It seemed to come from where you're standing, Erallur.
Which is where?
So you're just by the window.
Yeah.
And its back was to the doorway, which is why you couldn't see the sword. So it was almost in the centre of the room, and then the sword seemed to come from where you are standing, almost as if it came out of your chest, but not quite.
So the blade was from inside the house?
Yes.
Okay.
I could see the sword, presumably.
Briefly, you can see the blade.
What kind of sword does it look like? I have knowledge of soldiers and things.
Make a history check.
18?
It's difficult to tell because it's there and gone quite quickly, but it has a slight curve to the end of the blade. It's not a saber in the sense that it's not an entirely curved blade or a scimitar, but it has a slight curve to the tip. And you can see that it's very finely crafted and appears to be elven in origin.
So it's not just a generic guard's
No,
sword. Okay.
no. Can you make a perception check as well, please?
Kind of perception check.
Spot.
15.
So as you're standing there, the ghost having gone through you and caused another chill through you this time, and you now know what Lor'athel was talking about, it is not a pleasant yeah.
Oh no.
You just see the glint of metal hanging above the mantelpiece in the lounge, and it winks at you in a similar way to the blade that shone through the ethereal plane.
I'll go have another closer look and just see if it is in fact the same one.
It is, it matches, and it's hung above the mantelpiece. And you can see that it is clean. There is a very well worked handle with leather strapping wrapped around it. There's no crossbar. It is just a handle almost like a machete.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very well made sword.
Okay.
As she's doing this, I'm just going to turn to her and go, look, how long are we planning on staying here? Because elves don't sleep. And I'm concerned that if we rifle around here for too long, whoever might be the inhabitants of this building might choose to come down, and I don't know. I don't want to be misconstrued to be breaking and entering just for following a ghost.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's go. Where's Lor'athel? Let's go get him.
Speaking of, what was your stealth check, Simon? 4. Okay.
4.
And then we hear fighting.
So, there is a point where you think that you're getting fairly close to the candlelight. It appears that it's actually on an upper floor, as in the 3rd floor.
Oh.
Well, I suppose 2nd floor if you were being British, which we should be. So you go through a dark section of the staircase. The 1st floor is entirely dark and, again, dusty. There's no footsteps that lead onto that floor, but they are leading you further up. As you get up to the top of that stair, your boot comes down and there is a of wood that the rest of you hear downstairs. It is that loud. And then a voice says, "Who is there? Is that you, Sianthe?"
Yes.
Make a deception check.
What do they say? Sianthe?
Yeah, they say Sianthe, but you don't hear it.
No, I know. I'm just
Lor'athel
thinking
does,
so
yeah.
I can write it down.
Yeah.
13.
Okay. Why are you here at this hour?
Where the voice is coming from? Am I quite close to the door?
Yes. It's coming through a door that you can see candlelight flickering underneath.
Okay. I just walk forward and gently push the door open.
Okay. As you push the door open, you are immediately met with the smell of old sweat
Oh.
No.
and other things that are less pleasant.
Do I recognise these other things?
Like poop.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
usually class old sweat as pleasant?
Well, I said less. I said less pleasant. Yes. I didn't say that aren't pleasant. I said the less, I believe. This is not a nice smelling chamber. And
Okay.
also there is the edge of medicinal stench as well. You come into a chamber that follows the line of the roof. So it's an attic space with sloped triangular roof. Bare wood floors that are darkly varnished and appear, again, very well made. There are no knotted pieces. It's all very smooth and well-worked wood. There is a cot that sits on the far left-hand corner as you're facing from the far right. And in that cot, swaddled in blankets, there is an old elven face scowling at you through fairly roomy eyes. The blankets are brought up to the chin, and you can only see from the chin upwards. You see a slightly thinning hairline of dark black silver hair, large elven ears, larger than most elves, and also a little bit of stubble running across the jawline. And the person looks at you expectantly, but also the eyes don't seem to be seeing you terribly well.
Does he look anything like Thelios?
Make a perception check.
22.
There is a distinct similarity.
And he
In-
smells.
Yeah, in
Fucking guy.
in the set of the jaw, in the shape of the nose, and the shape of the forehead, there are distinct similarities. Not exactly the same, but yeah.
Okay. Lor'athel assumes that this is the old man that the villagers were talking about. They were saying that he wasn't well
Mhm.
or on his way out, in one sense. Sorry, what was the last thing that he said before I came in the room?
Cianthe, is that you? What are you doing here at this hour?
Do you need any medicine?
Is it time?
I don't know. How do you feel?
Much the same, despite your ministrations.
It's late and I'm half asleep. Remind me what it is that's wrong.
I don't know. You're the healer. You diagnose it.
Just have some patience. I'll be back. Try and get some rest.
Useless man.
And then I try and back out the room and go downstairs to everybody else.
Okay. A few
Not
minutes.
felt.
Yeah. So a few minutes pass, and then clanking comes back down the stairs fairly quickly.
Guys!
I feel like I'm at the bottom, just about to take my first step on the stairs to go up.
The ghost house!
We need to go in case the murderer comes and finds us in their house.
Old man. He's on the second floor.
Old man. You mean the same one we were being told about earlier?
I think so.
What makes you think he's the old man?
I need you to look at him, and I need you to tell me if you all see what I see.
Did he see you here?
I'm not sure. I don't think his eyesight's too good.
Isn't he going to know if there's loads of other people suddenly going up his stairs?
He seems to be bedridden. That's just,
Okay.
take it as it comes. But look, I need you to see him and to let me know that I've not gone mad.
Okay, I don't know.
Guess
Okay,
I'll follow
so-
as well.
Yeah,
You,
sure.
okay, you all three go up.
Yep.
Lor'athel, do you stay at the bottom or do you come up?
Oh,
with
no,
me?
I'm coming with.
Okay. So who goes into the room first?
Hopefully Lor'athel.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So Lor'athel goes in. The rest of you follow at his back.
I think I'm going to hang back in the doorway.
Okay.
You coward.
So back. So wait, you're not Cianthe. Thelios? Is that no? Be gone from here.
Well, I'm not Thelios. I'm not Thelios. Don't worry.
You lie. The fever is back. You're a lie.
No, we know him, but how do you know?
You know my boy.
Your boy. So you are his dad.
You know the traitor, my degenerate offspring, murderer.
What?
You say you know him. Do you truly?
What do you mean murder?
He killed my wife, his mother, and you come here with his name on your lips.
Lor'athel thinks back to the private conversation he had with Thelios and wonders what the hell it all meant.
And there's a moment where the old man blinks and then goes, Thelios, is that you? You've come back, have you? To stick the sword in me again? And you brought friends to finish the job? Not strong enough on your own, are you?
That's your wife downstairs, isn't it?
No, my wife's long dead. You killed her. Don't you remember?
With a sword through the chest.
That's it.
You don't know that because you went in the room.
Retcon.
I told you on the way up the stairs.
Yeah.
The sword's also hung up on the wall.
Oh, we did. We had a conversation. You couldn't hear it on the recording because of all the creaking steps.
Yeah.
With a sword through the chest.
There are 2 flights of stairs, this time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot where I wasn't. Did he seem to react? Did he confirm that? Or?
Yeah, he said, yeah, that's it. You know what you did to her.
Thelios is dead. We travelled with him for a time, and we wanted to come here so that his family could know.
You're a lie. You're
No.
not real.
Look, everyone, he's sick. Can anybody see what's wrong with him?
Yeah, does it look like anything I'd be familiar with?
Roll a medicine check.
Probably not. Let's have a look. 4.
He's sweating quite a lot. He talks about a fever. It seems to be a fever of some kind, but your expertise do not stretch to this area.
Okay. I'm just going to step back and look awkwardly at the others.
Do any of us have anything of his that we could give him to prove it?
I mean, Lor'athel's wearing his armour.
Well, that's why he thinks he's Thelios.
I once again get out the Torn pendant and show it to the old man.
Doesn't seem to recognise it.
Maybe he left before he went to the paladin school.
And also, he wouldn't recognise the armour because Thelios got that in Waterdeep after he'd met you, folk.
Yeah.
This is your son's. It's the symbol of Torn. It's the god that he served under when he was travelling with us.
You wouldn't even keep the elven gods, boy. You betray me again.
He still knew of them, and he still had respect for them. But he fought on behalf of all people, not just the elves when he was travelling around. That's something to respect him for.
Roll a persuasion check.
12.
Be gone from my home, liar, devil.
I'm just going to put a hand on Lor'athel's
No,
shoulder
even you.
You've
and just
got whatever
whisper,
he's got.
maybe it's time to go.
I nod. Turn to the others. And then after that moment of silence, we leave.
Yeah. At least I think we should go downstairs. Yeah, I'd like to have another look at the house downstairs.
Okay. So as you turn and leave out the door, he says, "That's right. Get out. Get out."
He's sick.
Hey, he's also a dickhead.
He's wrong about Thelios, I know that. We need to find out.
Well, he might have killed his mum, but I imagine he did it for good reason.
When we were in Waterdeep, Thelios told me that everything he did was for his mum. He loved that woman. I don't
Out
understand.
of guilt.
I don't know. He didn't say. I just don't understand.
Is there any way we would know about how to talk to ghosts?
Roll an Arcana check.
Ask the necromancer god.
I mean, mine is all very physical.
19.
You might know of a couple of ways. Ghosts tend to be attached to the ethereal plane for the majority of the time, hence why you perhaps didn't see it during the day, nor on your previous watch. This one manifesting in the material plane is unusual, but also you know that sometimes ghosts are attached to either particular locations or particular objects.
Would you go look at the sword?
Animated differently.
It
See
does
if...
seem to be slightly lighter in colour than the rest of the surroundings.
It has a black outline.
And if I go next to it, I can press A to pick it up, which I do.
Press X to pay respect.
Yeah. I'll take it off the wall. It's on the wall, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and just like turn it over in my hands and.
Okay, can you make a Constitution saving throw?
Yes.
Because you're just grating a sword in your hands.
22.
Okay, so as you grip the sword, you feel a similar chill as to when you cast Chromatic Orb and put ice into it through your hand, and you feel briefly the veins seem to freeze, but your magic pulses into your hand and seems to actually act almost like antifreeze and pushes the magic back out. But as you grip the sword, the blade drips with frost, and then you see that the ghost pauses in the doorway to that room, and its blank eyes stare towards you.
I wave.
Oh, damn.
Does it seem to see the others or just me?
It seems to see just you at the moment.
Someone else should have taken. Okay, and it's just entering into the room.
Yeah, and has paused in the doorway. It stopped, which it didn't do before, except where it was being stabbed repeatedly.
Okay, I'm going to go and stand in front of it. Does it follow me when I'm walking over there?
Yes.
Okay. What is its expression doing?
It's hard to tell without the eyes.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're a very expressive part of the face, but it seems to be looking at you in a fairly neutral expression.
Okay. You are the mother of Thelios.
I am.
Cool. That's all I need to know. No. Okay. And then I hold the sword up a bit. And this is the weapon.
She recoils a little bit.
Okay. I'll lower it a bit. This is the weapon that ended your life.
Yeah.
Can you tell me who wielded it?
My son.
Do you know why?
Yeah. He raised it against his father in anger and despair. He stabbed him, but caught me a mortal blow by mistake. His father survived. I died.
I gesture to the others to come over.
Do so very tentatively.
And then I hold the sword out and say, if you want to, you can try holding this with me and maybe we can talk to her together at your own risk, because they all saw what happened, presumably.
Yeah. And you can all hear her speaking to Erallur, but she still doesn't seem to have noticed any of you.
I will reach out and just put the ends of my fingers onto the flat of the blade.
Okay. Can you make a constitution saving throw for me?
Sure
Can I do anything instinctively to help him?
You could warn him that there's something that happens when you touch the sword.
Yeah.
Too
yeah.
late, 11.
Roll
Oh,
with
by the way,
advantage.
I thought you guys saw. Did you not see stuff happen? Did you not? Okay.
I think Erallur would have had time and would have told you, so roll with advantage,
Yeah.
Ed.
Okay. Ooh, much better. 27.
Okay,
my
so
goodness.
similarly, you feel the very thick hair on the back of your arm stand up rigid with cold, but you just shivered a little. You're used to being very chilly on the high seas. You've recently come back from the high ice, so you can shake off the chill. And as you place your fingers on the sword, her hollow eyes flick towards you. Again, fairly neutral expression.
Hello.
A dwarf here
Aye.
with a human.
We're friends of. Sorry.
No, you go.
We're Thelios's friends. There are two more. We'd all like to speak to you. Are you able to assist us in doing so without harm?
I will not harm you.
What about this?
I do not know.
Okay, I'll just look over the others and see if they want to join or not.
My son has friends. And you see an ethereal tear slip from one of the sockets.
Do you guys look like you're going to join?
I mean, Juniper almost died from the cold that one time, so I
Yeah.
think she's probably a little bit hesitant.
Cool.
And she's very small, so probably not. Yeah, my con isn't great anyway, from a meta standpoint. But from a past things happened and it was bad standpoint, I think she's happy not to become a frozen dogsticle.
Lor'athel, are you
Lor'athel?
taking the sword?
Lor'athel does not want that ghost to look at him.
Okay, all right.
Guess it's just you and me.
Okay.
Okay.
We've brought sad news. Laura.
Laura,
Oh my god!
Twice!
Racial parallels.
Thelios was our friend for a long time. I guess it was a long time. I don't really know how long.
It was quite a long time, yeah.
And we travelled together for many moons. And we presumably we have many moons in the sky. I don't know.
Yeah, how many moons do we have? And suns? We've never
There is
actually-
one sun.
Yeah.
I think there's only one moon.
Oh, okay.
I
Not
may
as
be,
fun as I was
I'm
expecting.
reading the Exandria guide at the moment. That definitely has two.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe a bit confused and going, no, Fate Rune's only got one. It may have more. I apologise if it's so. But I'm not sure where I would find that information off the cuff.
It'd be like multiple
So-
plural. It'd be like many moons is.
Yeah.
In
yeah.
many moons.
Anyway, we travelled together for a long time, and he stood for goodness, and he fought the evil in the world. And it reached a point where he was taken by his god. And I believe that he is serving a higher purpose somewhere else. But that means he is no longer of this plane, of this existence.
You see the words start to sink in, and then a slightly quizzical expression comes across the face. And she says, when did he go?
Was it like 2 months ago? We've been traveling quite a lot since.
I'd probably say about this point, maybe 5 weeks. So
Okay.
almost 2 months.
Yeah. Not too long ago, we made it our purpose to come and tell his family as soon as we could.
I was torn from the veil not too long ago. Could his death have meant my return?
Potentially.
Help me. Send me back. I do not wish to wander anymore.
Do you know why your husband is ill?
And you see the teeth bare in a snarl and slightly rotten gums almost become more disgusting in her anger. Because of me, he does not deserve life.
Why is that?
And she seems to shrink a little bit as her anger grew her and the hair went a little bit wilder. She seems to become a bit more, not solid, but more like her living self. You see the shadowed eyes peel back a little bit of luster come back into her face, but she seems a little bit meeker than before, and she gathers her arms around her to cover the wound on her chest. And she says, he was not a good husband. He was not a good father. He abused us, and Thelios could not take it any longer. He tried to strike him down to defend me, but he slew me instead. And now I take his justice to the man who should have died.
What can we do?
Kill the old man.
What will be the repercussions?
The village will be free of him. More people will come. It will flourish.
You excuse us a moment so we can just have a little powwow.
I knew you'd say power.
Drop the sword, and I will not hear you or see you.
I'll take it over to the others and then I'll put it down on the floor between us.
Okay. As soon as you release it and Flint loses his fingers from it, she goes back into drifting around the room in the same perimeter that you saw her doing before, ostensibly as if she'd never even seen you originally.
So, I mean, you heard all of that. So,
I think we should think about what Thelios would want us to do.
He wouldn't want us to kill him.
no.
But he'd want his mother to have peace. There's obviously a reason she's been brought back here.
Lor'athel, forgive my morbidity, but as far as elves go, if struck by a disease or a fever, especially an older elf, what are the chances of living for much longer? As a hypothetical.
I'm assuming I know that.
Well, I'd say roll a medicine check, because although you're a scout, you've not really done that much in the sense of triage and looking after elderly people. So
17.
diseases are known to take older elves from time to time. Often they do die of old age, unlike most other races, because they have a wanderlust in their younger years, which is what you're experiencing now, hence why you're an adventurer. But when they get to a certain point, the fact that their memories start flooding back means that they are keener to go back to their original home or settle down and pass on that knowledge to the next generation. So once they get to that age, it is much less likely that they will die. And because they are less exposed to the world, it means that their immune systems are not as good but it means that they're exposed to less pathogens. So it's a balance, but this one looks to your eye very unwell. And given that the previous mention that Siane made of him possibly being 1,000 years old, even if he's anywhere near that, it's unlikely he'd survive for much longer.
It's hard to say. He's very old and seemingly very sick. You put two and two together. He might not have long, but he's being looked after. It looks like there's some kind of medical intervention, so I can't say.
I don't imagine him dying a natural death would be much vengeance for the wife.
No, but it would allow her to pass on.
Well, would it? I don't know. What if he dies naturally and then she just has to stay here forever with no means to get back?
What if we help him along the way? There was a medicine cabinet in the room, and he did seem to be suffering.
Surely killing someone is killing someone. Helping it along the way with some gentle encouragement is really the same result as using this sword.
Look, we have killed before, and in many cases that has been either unavoidable or brought to us. It's not often that we've gone looking for conflict, but killing an old man in his bed is not. It's not my modus operandi. I'd like to think it's not ours.
I don't think I could kill Thelios' dad.
There we go. I'm with Juniper. Look, he might be a sick fuck, but I mean, she said it herself. Thelios tried to strike him down in a heated moment. I think if he was in our position, even if it meant giving his mother peace, far be it for me to speak on his behalf, but I don't think that he would choose that option, not if there were other ones. I don't know if there are, but that's just my 2 copper.
Would I know? I don't know anything about ghosts. Is there a chance I would know about any other way to bring a ghost to peace other than the one specific thing they need?
I'd say, based on your Arcana check from before, because that was quite high, there are ways, but the swiftest is doing what they require. The other option would be to break the sword, but that's not a guarantee that she would be at peace. She would just be no longer attached to the material plane. The third option would probably be the individual from which they want retribution to sincerely apologize.
That sounds even harder. I'll just kill him.
Oh, dear.
Hey, sorry, no.
I tell everyone. Does anyone fancy getting an apology out of him?
We could give him the sword.
Juniper, do you still have your... Was it you who had the zone of truth?
Yes.
Look, he might be stubborn, but he's also a man who lost his wife. Now, I'm willing to wager that he is a long-lived individual, and as such, he probably has a lot of regrets in his life. I imagine this is one of them.
He'll have a
Possibly.
lot of noise in his head if he's truly 1,000 years old. It's not just his wife and his son that he's lost. He's got behind. He's already suffering.
I'm just thinking if we can get him to apologise in a zone of truth.
Then we help both of them.
Aye.
And I think that's what Thelios would want us to do.
Possibly. It's worth a go. Ultimately, this man upstairs has to live with his own regrets. Might not be punishment enough, but it lets her go. And she deserves that much.
Let's bring the sword.
I'll pick up the sword again.
She wasn't in the room when you picked her up, but she immediately apparates back in and says, "You have me. You're
Are you able to follow us?
yeah.
And I'll get the others to lead the way.
Okay. Are you doing so quietly or just stomping up like you did before?
Stomping is default, I think. So.
Yeah.
Well, with Lor'athel it is.
He knows we're in his house, so...
Yeah.
We did.
Okay. So,
We should give him the sword, I say as we go up the stairs.
Erallur,
So
are
he
you
can speak
going
to her.
first? Because you've got the sword.
No, I was going last.
Okay. Okay, so who's first and who's in the middle?
Thing is, if we give him the sword and he fails the Constitution save, which he absolutely would, he might die. But he will have died because of her, not us.
No loopholes.
And she'd get to watch.
So who's first? Erallur's last.
Why aren't you first? You've got the sword.
No, but
Because
the ghost is following her.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be further back.
All right.
You're going first, Lor'athel.
I'm fine. All right.
Okay, and then
You know
Juniper
this
and Flint
guy.
in the middle.
Yep.
Okay, so you go back into the room. Yeah, so you're tromping up the stairs. Lor'athel leading the way, Flint and Juniper in between, Erallur holding the sword, and the ghost coming up behind you all. I presume you go straight to the top of the stairs and open the door again?
Sure.
Okay. So, on you opening the door, the individual appears asleep this time, doesn't seem to notice as you come through, and you can see that the eyes are flickering under the eyelids as if deep in dream.
Okay. Go over to him and give him a gentle pat on the shoulder, like a nudge, to wake him up.
Okay, he jerks awake, and his eyes seem to focus a little bit more than they did before, and his left arm swings at you as if trying to punch you, but the move is so weak that it doesn't even come within 6 inches of your face, and it sinks back to the blankets that it managed to wrestle itself free from. And then he says, returned to torture me, have you?
Actually, we have a visitor for you. And then I can turn.
I don't think he can see. Can he see her? Well, we'll find out.
The eyes look at the rest of your group. 3 visitors, I'd say, but they're the same as before.
Can I see what the ghost is doing right now?
Seems to just be looking at you following the sword.
Because she can't see him.
Apparently not.
So he can't see her with. Sorry, he can't see her without
He
touching
can't
the
see
sword.
her just in general,
Right. Okay.
apparently.
Okay. Cool.
I'm just going to curiously hold Juniper's hand, if she lets me, to see if that, and with me holding the sword, her holding my hand, can she see the ghost? No, because the ghost
Okay.
see her.
I mean, I will let Erallur take my poor hand.
Okay.
I'm happy with that.
Juniper, you feel a slight chill, but you cannot see anything other than what you were seeing before. The ghost doesn't seem to notice.
The ghost can't see her.
No.
Okay. Okay. I look a bit disappointed and then let go.
Okay.
Didn't want to hold his hand anyway.
Erallur, do you want to
What?
just nod in the direction of the withered old man?
I mean, I didn't know Thelios as well as some people did in this group, but yes, I will do the talking.
Okay, so you move over towards him.
Yeah, but not close enough to be hit in the face.
Okay, but as you do,
Nice.
he seems to look at you curiously. I don't know you. What?
Hello, sir. My name is Erallur. I was friends with your son, Thelios. What is your name, please?
I will not give you my name.
Have I offended you?
You are not real. A spirit.
I am not the spirit in this room.
He just looks at you confused.
How can I prove my literalness to you?
You're a trick. You're a ghoul. You're a ghost. I don't believe you exist. And just carries on with this.
I'll just
Much
put
better.
out my arm and basically invite him to touch it.
Roll the persuasion check
Okay.
with disadvantage.
Okay. Okay. Well, an 8 and a 9, so 16.
Ooh, okay. He tentatively reaches out with the weak hand, and it's shaking visibly. There is a definite tremor to it, and touches your hand, and then looks at you very confused, but seems to soften a little bit. So
I am real, sir.
you are. Why do you come here?
Just checking. Did Lor'athel tell him that Thelios is dead? I can't remember.
Yeah.
You did? Okay. As my friends have attested, we have brought news of your son, as we thought it would bring you some peace to know what happened to him.
So he is dead then.
I just nod.
Then you have passed on your news and you may go. And he retracts the hand.
Perhaps it isn't our business, but we couldn't help but notice when we arrived here that there is a unsettled spirit living here. I don't know if you're aware of it, but...
Poppycock, no such thing exists here. I have bid you go. Go.
Please ask me something only your wife would know.
Roll a persuasion check again.
26.
What was her nickname for me when we were courting?
So I'll just turn and very, very quietly ask that question of the ghost lady.
She replies, Roly Poly.
I'll turn back to him and roly-poly.
He goes even whiter than he was before and goes, She's here.
I nod again.
Lor'athel here. No. She's dead. She's gone. She can't be here.
I believe she was gone, but something happened to bring her back again, and now she seeks peace.
What peace? And his eyes flick to the sword.
I think she is unsettled about how things ended, and perhaps you are too.
Well, my son was responsible, and he's now dead, you say? So what peace could I offer her?
Well, I think you probably know that better than we do.
Roll a persuasion check.
I hate rolling. 18. No, sorry. 16.
Yeah. Still pretty good.
I don't know what you want from me.
It's not what I want, but you knew your wife, I assume. So what do you think she would want?
I don't claim to know the desires of a spirit. I do not truck with mysticism and foolishness.
We're not necessarily talking about a spirit. What would your wife, if she were alive, what would she want? Think about the wife that you know.
Her boy. She'd want her boy. She'd want to be with him, to be free of me. Are you going to do it then? You're going to stab me with that blade like he did her?
I don't think it's for me to do. I was rather hoping there would be another alternative.
So you want me to do it?
No, I meant a more non-violent alternative, maybe involving discourse.
What kind of discourse?
Is there anything that your wife, and I turn and gesture that she is in the room, would...
He looks in that direction but doesn't seem to see anything.
As in just to let him know that she's here. Is there anything that you would like to say to her?
I hope she finds what she's looking for. And you see his chin raise a little with pride.
I pull Erallur's cloak. I go, I think you should give Thelios' dad the sword.
But what about the cold?
I can give him a little help.
Okay.
And I strum. And according to the rules, I could give bardic inspiration to any creature.
You can.
Not just members of my party.
You can.
So,
Excellent.
yeah. So I would like to give him some bardic inspiration, which means he can add 1d10
Woof.
any ability check.
Okay.
Which I'm
Uh,
guessing.
Woof is right.
Woof.
Yeah.
I'd also like to... I'm assuming that I've been... He's in his bed, right?
Yeah.
So if I haven't been already, then I'd like to kneel down beside his
Okay.
bed. And if he'll let me, I'd like to take his hand.
Okay, roll another persuasion check.
I'm so glad I plus 8. 22.
Okay, he allows you to take his hand.
And then I'd like to hold my action. If he appears to fail the Constitution save,
Okay.
I'd like to use Healing Hands.
Got it. Okay. So do you place his hand with your hand onto the sword?
So I'll hold one of his hands.
Yeah.
He's lying down, not sitting
Yeah.
up,
No,
presumably.
he's lying down.
And then, yeah, I suppose I'll use that same hand assuming he wants to, I think I've got
He
to let
seems
him.
to let you guide his hand.
Yeah, and then I'll hold the 3 hands together on the sword. What's it called? The handle. Of the sword. Which part's the hilt? Is that the handle or is that the guard thingy that goes across?
It's the entire handle usually, but this hasn't got a cross guard.
Okay.
The hilt would usually be the handhold and the cross guard
Okay,
inclusive.
Cool.
Okay, so good thing you gave him the bardic inspiration.
Ah.
Because he rolled 7 on that and he rolled an 8 otherwise and he needed a 15.
Ooh.
So you see him visibly shake as you place the hand on the sword, but he doesn't seem adversely affected by it other than the fact that he is now staring at the apparition and looks terrified.
I'm just going to say very quietly, we're still here.
Lor'athel, is that you? And she drifts closer and actually almost kneels down next to you, Erallur, in a very similar pose to yours, and then reaches out and doesn't quite touch your hands, but places hers near to the cluster and says, Rolla, you must grant me peace, as you couldn't in life. What must I do? Die. And you feel his hand and his fingers shift underneath yours briefly as if trying to take them away. But then he thinks better of it and then says, is there nothing else I could do? I'm likely to die anyway, but I would like to stay as long as I could. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm scared of what's to come, of what I did to you. And finally her hand comes to rest upon yours and you feel a shock of cold blister through you and you feel the cold starting to seep into him. But then he just starts to cry and looks at her full in the face as her eyes seem to fill in with eyeballs again, and the wound on her chest knits back together. Her hair braids into a loose braid that comes back from her temples and goes to the back of her head and then flows down her neck. And she looks much like she would have in life, you think. And then he just says, I'm so sorry. And you feel the chill start to ripple, almost as if a breeze is blowing through the room. And you see his fingers, the tips, blacken slightly upon the blade. And then he pulls them free, leaving a little bit of skin behind. And you feel the sword crack and grow colder. And eventually pieces start to drip from the sword as the apparition seems to be blown away on the breeze. And then you simply hold the handle as pieces of ice slip onto the bedsheet that were once metal. And Rolar Duvena lies back and seems to fall into a slumber, more peaceful than the one he was in before. But you are left alone in the room, the Bane Glorious and the old man.
I've still got the handle of the sword.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it in my bag.
Okay.
As a keepsake.
I just look at the others and just, perhaps we should,
Mm-hmm. We'll all quietly leave.
Okay.
Before we go, I wonder if Thelios' room is still here. Do you think he'd want us to see it or not?
Oh, for sure.
I don't think he can stop us.
That's the
Not
darkest
what I
thing you've ever said, Juniper.
And that's saying something.
Oh, dear.
I feel like Lor'athel would know, but he seems to...
He's very quiet.
Oh, here he is. Yes, he was here all along. I just couldn't
Hello.
see him. I don't get the impression that Lor'athel thinks that's a good idea. So I'm going to start going down the stairs.
Okay. So do you all go downstairs and then leave the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you come back out into the chilly night air in the middle of Duskleaf. What would you like to do now?
Take a breather. Stand back and look at the house. Now I know whose house it was.
Yeah.
Imagine little Thelios running around. Take a little moment to, I don't know, not pay respect, but
Yeah.
just think of him.
Take it in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then go back to the camp and sleep again.
Okay. Do you keep watch anybody this time, or?
I mean, I've
'Cause I
had my
think
turn.
Lor'athel, you were going to take the last watch.
Yeah.
Originally.
So
Do you
I'll
want to do
stay
that?
up.
Okay.
I'll stay up.
You would have more or less meditated just enough, I think, Lor'athel, to not get an exhaustion point. So, can you roll a perception then as the others go to sleep? You didn't perceive the dice tray, apparently.
I missed
Yeah.
16.
You hear the first warbles of the dawn chorus of the hardier birds that live this far north, but nothing else happens as the rest of the chorus starts to join in. The sun starts to rise around 8 o'clock in the morning, just given still how deep into winter you are. And yeah, no incidents happen further during the evening.
A peaceful night.
Indeed. So the others wake and you are on the outskirts of Duskleaf. What would you like to do?
Well, I suppose our business here is mostly done.
Concluded.
You're awake. Morning.
Morning.
That's what I say as I wake up.
Yeah,
It seems our business.
like immediately he bolts
Yeah.
up
Were
right.
you meaning to say that as you woke up, or were you dreaming about the pub?
Yeah.
So, what now?
Well, I was planning to go back to Waterdeep.
I
Aye.
think it's time to go home. We came and we did what we came here to do. And they don't seem to like outsiders. I don't think it would be right for us to stick around.
No. Who knows? Hopefully that might change. I'd like to think we showed the old man in there a little humility, but you can never be sure.
I don't think we did. I think that was someone else.
Aye. So,
We've got a long journey ahead.
where to?
Well, Waterdeep.
No? Unless there's anywhere else that anyone's wanting to go.
I suppose the main question is, do we walk? Or do we take the 1 in 10 chance? Sorry, 2 in 10 chance.
It's not 2 in 10.
It's 2 in 10.
It is not.
The 1 in 10 times 2 chance. And go by plane shift. Go by plane. Yes.
First, we have to invent the plane. Flint, you work on that.
I'm still waiting for a land vehicle that I can be proficient with.
Buy a cart, dude. Like, they exist. You had one.
We
Okay.
could buy a cart before we go. We could buy a cart on the way.
To pull with
I'm-
what?
I'm not sure you could bring the cart with you into the ethereal plane, though, because it's on creatures rather than things.
I suppose I was more thinking for our long distance walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you casting plane shift or are you walking?
I think we've got time to walk based on the various people we've told will be in certain places.
Okay.
And I did tell Richard Dawkins and what are their names? Stephen Hawkings, Rowan Wilkinson, and Richard Dawkins where we would be roughly at any point in time.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to take the time and
Okay. Because you're
Contemplate
north of Silvery
things.
Moon now, so it would probably take a month and a half to 2 months. So you'd be well into spring by that time. Yeah.
2 months or 2 days with a risk of maybe dying. What do we want to do?
Shall we walk?
Let's take a vote. All in favour of, well, the thing is, I'm happy to do both. All in favour of plane shifting.
Thing is, I'm torn between player and character.
Yeah.
Player is absolutely like, take the fucking risk, man.
Yeah.
Where Flint,
Anyway, yeah. Plane
Okay,
shift.
so
Good.
Juniper and
Let's play
Lor'athel have
shift.
voted for. Erallur is on the fence. Flint is a no.
But the fact that they are so strongly for, and Ed the player would like to do it.
Well, but I think if Erallur is on the fence and is staying neutral,
yeah,
Flint's a no.
then we can't win with walking
But-
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So the vote goes to
Yeah.
plane shift.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay, can you roll the D100 for me?
but
then,
it's not my
please?
fault if we die.
No, it's democracy's fault if you die.
Okay, 40. 0.
Okay, so 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Where exactly in Waterdeep are you focusing on to end up at?
I'm probably focusing on our pub.
Yeah?
I
Yeah,
imagine.
Okay. So you focus on the pub. You feel that familiar shift as you jerk into the ethereal plane as it moves rapidly underneath you, and you find yourselves outside the pub. A few people are wandering around, a little bit worse for wear, it looks like. It's early in the morning, it's not terribly busy, but you are in the ethereal plane outside of your pub.
Excellent.
Can you make perception checks whilst you're there?
All dead.
4.
I've been dead.
What are we rolling for, sorry?
14.
Perception, please.
Because we're back
We're
outside
on-
the pub, aren't we?
Yeah, we're on the ethereal plane by the pub.
You're-
23.
Flint, you're feeling a little bit queasy again. You concentrate on just focusing on keeping it in rather than looking at stuff. Juniper, what did you get?
Stop it.
25.
It's horrible.
25. And, okay, so
Stop
Erallur,
it.
you noticed that the facade of the front of the pub is looking in better nick
Oh, nice.
than it was before.
Does it have a name yet?
No, it has a sign hanging up, but there is no coat of arms or name.
Okay.
It is a blank sign. It's hard to tell what material it would be, but it is hanging up. Lor'athel and Juniper, you can see inside, and you see that the familiar figure of Orkins, though in ethereal form, is working on some wood. Inside, he is sanding down what appears to be a piece of the bar that has been entirely rebuilt and refashioned into a very elegant looking piece. And you can actually see that the tables inside have been set right. The detritus that was there has been shifted out or repurposed. And it seems like if the pub isn't already operating, it is in a good position to maybe start thinking about doing so. But you're in the ethereal plane right now.
This is when we all retire from being adventurers, and this is now just a pub simulator.
Yeah.
Pull the pint. There are bedrooms upstairs.
There are, yeah.
So I'm going to go in and see if the beds look like they've been used recently or are being used.
Okay. So did you go to the room that you were in last time that you were here?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think, was it one room for all of us? I can't remember.
No, it wasn't. They were split up and you were in a
Okay.
room on your own.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Oh, was it that pub?
Yes.
The pub.
We owned the pub where I disappeared.
No,
Was that a
no,
different pub?
different pub.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
No.
Okay, cool.
No, it's some people slept together, but you had a room to yourself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and like Thelios got stabbed or something.
Yeah.
Oh, was
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah.
The one
Yeah.
where Thelios got stabbed. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
That's the pub name.
You go to said room. You actually see that the bed is made. There are a few possessions in there, a few pairs of shoes, and there seems to be a letter, opened but a little bit crumpled, on a fairly new-looking bedside table. It looks like somebody has been using this as their
Can
bedroom.
I don't want to pry into what the letter is, but can
Yeah.
I just look at it enough to see who it's for?
Make a perception check.
Natural 1.
Can't see the particular creases in the way that the ethereal smoke is falling, obscure it from your vision.
Okay, I'll put it down and...
Oh, did you pick it up?
Oh, I assumed that it was face down or something, but
Oh,
if
no,
it
it was just
wasn't, then
crumpled
no,
face
I
up.
didn't.
Okay.
If I didn't need to pick it up,
Yeah,
then no.
no, because if you pick it up,
Yeah.
then you don't need to make a perception check
Yeah.
because you can read. So it depends.
Yeah.
From far away, you can't see what it says.
Well, since I can't see it, I think, yes, I will try and pick it
Okay.
up.
You
Yeah.
pick it up and you recognize it in terms of the wording as the letter you sent from Yartar to
Ah, okay.
your servants.
Do I recognise whose shoes they are? Seeing as they're all very different sized people.
This looks like it might be Orkins who's
Okay,
using
cool.
this room.
I'm just going to have a little nosy around the other rooms and see which ones might be occupied and which might not.
Okay, it doesn't look like the collective room that a few of the others slept in has been occupied, but the other single rooms have been. Your single room was on the upper floor, and there's another single room up there that is occupied as well. And then there's one room that wasn't a bedroom before that seems to have almost not a sleeping bag because that's too modern, but a bedroll situation. And that appears to be Dawkins's room. You know that he prefers to rough it
Mhm.
in sleeping situations, is more used to
Richard
that kind of-
Dawkins.
yeah, is more used to that kind of setup.
Typical Richard Dawkins. Okay. I mean, there are many fewer of us now than
Yeah.
there were last time we were here. So how many beds are in the bigger room?
4, I believe.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I think that's what I said. It's been a long time.
I think we'll forgive any inconsistencies. Okay, so I'll head
But
back
I mean,
down.
the manservants could have changed it, so I'll
Yeah.
say that. There are 4 now.
Okay.
Deal with it.
Yeah, so I'll go and let everyone know that there's potentially empty room and we might be able to risk sleeping in.
Okay. So
Potentially our last night before we end up in the fire plane, who knows?
yeah, so for the sake of brevity, do you just spend the day walking around Ethereal Waterdeep, or do you spend it watching people weirdly at the pub? What do you do for the day until
I think I have
plane shift is ready again?
a nap.
Okay. Just sleep for a long time. I mean, I
Not
can't
the
blame
whole
you.
day.
Well, to be honest, that's not that unreasonable given the amount of stuff that you've gone
I just
through.
feel like it's worse than this, but it's like when you've been away from home for ages and ages, and then you finally get home, and it's not home because it's not super familiar. It's not like we have that familiar home smell when we walk into this pub yet.
Yeah.
But
we've like been there once before.
Yeah. There's a metaphorical sense of home and security, I think.
Okay. That's
so
cool.
yes, I don't think I'm going to go around doing a shopping or anything.
I also think, I know that Lor'athel wouldn't necessarily want to wander far because he knows that he needs to be with this Cuirass to get back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think I'm probably thinking about Thelios and how I didn't really know him very well.
Yeah.
Just pondering.
Okay. Lor'athel, do you teach them any dice games to pass the time?
Would it work in the Imperial plane?
I mean, you have your stuff. You know, you take everything with you.
I mean, if we're sitting around the docks, why not?
Yeah. Okay. So for the sake of brevity, we will say that you spend the time sleeping, playing games.
I'm very good at cards.
This is true, but Lor'athel only has dice. So you pass the time doing this, napping occasionally, and then it comes to the next morning. Do you cast plane shift again?
Yes.
Okay, can you roll a D100 for me again?
Weird ass plane.
88.
Okay. You shift back into the material plane.
Damn it.
Whereabouts did you choose to do it?
Unless anyone has any requests, I think probably the same place we're currently.
So would that be in the bedroom, do you think?
No,
out-
I think probably where we first appeared,
Out
so
on
we
the
don't
street.
surprise them from inside.
Okay, so
Yeah.
out on the street.
Like an alley or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. So you reappear in the material plane. You feel the familiar sea breeze whistling across you. Flint, it is a very comforting feeling. Again, the air is a little bit fresher. It's not as chill as it's been before. There's a little bit of heat coming into it even this early in the day. And there is one drunk who is lying on the floor just round the corner who was looking down the alley for some reason and suddenly goes, "Oh, gods, what's happening? Oh, I'm never drinking again." And then just waddles off in the direction away from the pub.
That's a classic film establishing shot.
Our first customer.
So do you go around and into the pub?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Orkins is there and is still working on that piece of wood as you come in and says, "Oh, it's been a long time. How you doing?"
Is he talking to me specifically?
He's
or all
talking
of us?
to all of you collectively.
I'm going to go over and give him a very, very warm handshake.
"Oh, thank you, my lady.
Like a proper, like, good to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you as well. We got your note. We've been working on the place. We did have to spend a little bit of money, I'm afraid. I hope it's not
That's
too...
what it was for.
Well, good. I'm glad. As you can see, it seems to have been put to good use. The
It
others
looks amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The others are on a supply run at the moment. They're just up in the trade ward. I sent them out early to see what they could get. We just need a few bits and bobs like cutlery, and we need to sort out a supplier for the ale and the food. So they're seeing on trade ward if they can sort that out for us.
So there's no customers around at the moment?
No, strictly speaking, we haven't opened yet.
Strictly speaking.
Well, you know, some people like to come in and just have a sit and a chat. And, you know, it does pass the time whilst I'm working. It's quite nice.
That's good. Maybe we could have some kind of opening night
Well,
event.
that's a good idea. I mean, we thought we would leave the naming of the place to you and the grand opening, as it were. You know, we just thought we would get everything done that we could and then await your return. And well, you're pretty much exactly on time, which is very impressive.
Lovely. Well, I really appreciate all the work you've done so far.
Well, you know, we get paid, so we do the work.
Will you let me know when the others are back?
Of course, my lady, of course.
I'm not sure what everyone else wants to do in the meantime.
Flint is just going to go and pace the docks for a bit, I think.
Can I, depending on what everyone else is doing, I'm probably just going to arrange which room is whose and stuff. Check that there are rooms for us, etc.
Yeah, well, there's the 4-bedroom. Hawkins was obviously in the room that you originally occupied, but is very willing to give up that room and make other arrangements.
I feel like I quite liked that room.
Yeah. The thing is, he just took it because it was convenient.
What would make the most business sense? I feel like having a 4-bedroom is best because traveling groups can rent it out.
Well, it's not
rather
a bad
than
idea.
Individuals.
I mean, there's space. There's another room off the kitchen that some of you could use if you wanted to as a bedroom.
How many would that sleep?
Depends. We could put a partition up in it and could sleep 2 of you. It's not the biggest of places, but you know, if you're just using it as a rest stop. Or...
Juniper, would that be interesting for you to share a room with someone, or would you rather have somewhere on your own?
I'm very small.
Okay.
That doesn't really answer my question, but all right.
Who am I talking to again? Is it Hawkins?
Hawkins, yeah.
Hawkins, have you done any financial plans of what we would need to make this place stable? How many guests?
I mean, a little bit. I think, you know, we being in the dock ward of Waterdeep, we can't afford to perhaps charge as much as they would elsewhere. But you know, we've made it a nicer place. So maybe if we tried for 5 gold a night per person, you know, because then if we have 4 beds that are full, that's 20 gold a night. That's not bad. And then in terms of the ale, obviously it depends how much of a deal we can get on the supply. But Hawkins and Hawkins are quite persuasive. So, you know, I imagine maybe 1 gold for a pint of ale is a little bit pricey. But, you know, I feel like...
But it's a nice place.
Exactly. And, you know, I feel like we could maybe rejuvenate the area around Dock Ward by being here. Not, you know, necessarily...
Gentrification. I see where this is going.
Well,
I'm on board.
You know, it's an investment, isn't it? And you know, from your accounts, you're not short of gold. So I imagine there might be a few difficult months, but I think we could make a go of it.
Hopefully we'll have some other income as well. I'm sure that would be a problem.
Well, yeah, you never know. Depends what you want to do.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome, my lady.
In that case, for now, maybe we'll take the room off the kitchen. And is there another 2-bed, or it's just maybe just 2 singles?
Well, you could make it 2 singles, but it'd be still a bit tight.
I mean, sorry, on top of that, so the kitchen one.
Yeah, there's the kitchen, there's the 4,
yeah,
and then there's 2 singles, one of which is yours.
Okay, so
you could fit all 4 of you if one other person had that single. And Hawkins and...
I feel like it makes more sense if we just all go in the 4-bedroom, because otherwise we're just saying we only have 1 room for rent and that's it. Rather than being able to offer, it doesn't matter that much. I just feel like offering a twin and 2 singles is better than a quadruple.
It's up to you.
But do you guys want to share?
Well, I've headed off.
I will choose for you. Do you guys want to share?
I feel like you found the base building minigame and nobody else.
And I'm loving life.
D&D Sims Edition.
I think we'll just use the bigger 4-bedroom for now. We can always change our minds later.
Yeah, no, you know, I mean, the boys and I could find other lodgings as long as you're not adverse to paying for that, or we can find something.
I'm sure we'll work something out. After all, we might not be here all the time. I'm not sure. We'll have to figure out whether this is a permanent thing or not.
Yeah, well, we'll play it by ear.
Mm-hmm. Great. So then I'll just wander around.
Okay. So Dawkins and Hawkins return after a couple of hours. It seems successfully, given that Dawkins is holding a large barrel of ale as he comes back, and Hawkins is rubbing his hands together quite happily as he comes into the pub. Are you downstairs at this point? Obviously, Flint, you're off walking. What are the rest of you doing?
Probably just, downstairs, chilling out.
Okay, so they come in and see you, Erallur, and both nod at you in respect.
I'm going to give them a similar greeting to what I gave Hawkins.
Well, they seem very surprised, but pleasantly. And Dworkins goes a little bit pink around the cheeks that you can see over his beard.
Oh. Are the others here except Flint?
Yeah, so I'm here. I'm trying my best to do some kind of hanging framing situation for Thelios' pendant behind the bar.
Okay. I'd say, what would a woodworking check be?
I'm going to give you the sword hilt as well to see if you want to incorporate that.
Was that his sword?
It's the sword that he killed his mother with.
I'm going to say...
But it's the sword that brought both his parents peace, which I think is positive.
Excellent.
Oh my god.
So
The majority of us have facepalmed.
do with it what you will.
Oh god.
This is
I'll-
fantastic.
I'll just say that you are able to do that because I can't think of a check, and you're fairly good with tools and things. So
I'm going to put the hilt down on the bar for later.
okay.
And I'm going to
I-
nicely hang the pendant, nice and central. You know, like the Winchester, it has
Yeah.
like that, with his little torn pendant.
Yeah, and the way that the windows are set and the way that the early sunlight is coming through, it glitters just slightly against the wall, and there's a little bit of reflection over onto one of the chimney.
Lor'athel finally
braces.
feels like he's done Thelios justice.
Are we going to bury the hilt, Lor'athel?
I think we should chuck it in the sea and forget about it.
Should we go and find Flint inevitably by the sea and do that?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go and do that, and I'm going to stay and just have a word with these three.
All right. Are you coming,
Okay.
Juniper?
Okay. Scamper up.
Okay,
Grab the hilt.
so the two of you go off to find Flint. Flint, what are you doing? Are you just walking up and down?
I'm walking along the docks and business going on, I'm assuming?
A little bit. Not many businesses are open this early. It's
Okay.
around 8:30 in the morning by this. No, it's later now because, well, when you set off, it's early. Sorry. Getting lost in my own head and timing. But yeah, by the time you get there, it's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So some are opening, some aren't.
Okay. Is there anywhere that might be selling or in the business of me purchasing any sea vehicles at all?
Make
You've
an
got a sea vehicle.
investigation check.
That's 20, not natural.
Okay. What kind of sea vehicle are you looking for? Are you looking for a small boat, or are you looking for a more substantial ship?
Something small,
Okay.
something fairly
Yeah.
small.
There's a
Like
couple of places that you find quite quickly that have either almost rowboat kind of things or single sail ships that
Okay.
look like a one person could run it if they really, really wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to approach them and just, excuse me.
Hello, what can I do
Hi.
for you? And you see it's this human man in slightly ostentatious sailorish garb. There's the familiar leathers and braces and trappings that your compatriots have worn, but this is pristine to the point that you think they probably have never been out on the water, or at least haven't been for a prolonged period of time.
Hey, I noticed you had some single sail ships.
Oh, yes, for sale, yes.
Hey, how much would you be looking at for something like that?
Oh, for one of those? Is there one in particular that you were wanting, or just, a basic model? We could do
Just-
a paint job, or...
Just a vague ballpark figure for now.
All right, well, a ship of that caliber, with the... you're wanting the sailcloth, I assume?
Aye.
Well, with full sail and tack, you're looking at 75 gold pieces.
75 gold. Not bad. Can I board a couple of them, if that's
Of
okay?
course, yes, quite all right,
Cast my
quite all right.
discerning eye. So yeah, I'm just going to go between them and have a look.
Just don't untie them, my friend, don't untie them, or I'd have to send the watch after you.
I just turn round and give him a obsequious thumbs up.
As
before
much as I
turning
would
around.
like to see the griffins, I wouldn't like to call them down upon you.
Motherfucker. Okay, so I'm just gonna go and look at each of the boats.
Yeah.
Are they in good nick generally?
They look in quite good nick, yeah. The hulls have been recently waxed. There doesn't appear to be any holes or anything that has been patched up. They look like they are fairly new. Yeah, look like good seaworthy vessels.
In terms of the body of the ship, I'm thinking modifications. How feasible would it be? Would there be room to, I guess, empty out the middle portion and potentially add some kind of furnace, basically add in...
Well, the middle portion is
beam
where
fittings.
the mast is.
Yeah.
A single master. So it's feasible that you could perhaps pull the mast up
Yeah.
and put the furnace underneath. But generally putting a furnace underneath a wooden mast, not the best of ideas.
I'm thinking more long-term, basically turning it into something a bit more steam-powered.
Roll an artificer check. So that would be intelligence plus your proficiency.
Okay. So that's 25.
It's feasible. It's definitely feasible. There might be a bit of trial and error involved. There's the possibility that you might end up going through a couple of boats, depending on how explosive it ends up being. But
Well, they're only 75 gold, so yeah, I'll see which one is to my liking, and then I'll come back down and I'll take it.
wonderful, wonderful. The one on the end with the green paint.
Aye, yes, I might
Lovely.
strip some of that back, but
It's entirely up to you. The boat is yours, my friend. The boat is yours. Pleasure
Some-
doing business with you. Hope to see you again.
you too.
Enjoy the waves, good sir. Enjoy the waves.
Thank you very much. Will do.
Okay, so you have a boat.
Boat, lovely. Our pub is kind of near
On
the
the
docks.
docks, yeah.
It's on the docks, lovely.
Yeah.
I am going to sail our new boat and I'm going to park it outside.
Okay.
Park the boat.
Okay, so you tie it up outside. There
Okay.
is an individual who walks up as you're tying the boat up, and they seem to be wearing similar garb to the guard of Waterdeep. They have the green and white, but it's in a sash across a red brocaded jacket. And they have a shaved head other than a little strip that goes down the middle, almost like a mini Mohican. And they look at you up and down. The human have a little bit of a bushy moustache that just curls slightly at the end and say, "What do you think you're doing?
I am docking my boat.
Do you
Oh.
have a permit?"
I do.
Roll a deception check.
17 with a
And
minus
where-
1.
And where might this permit be, sir?
It's inside mine and my friend's pub. Just
I see. Could you go and get it for me so I may see it?
I could. You patrol this area quite a lot?
I am Doc Official Weeks.
Ah,
And you,
lovely.
Arthur?
My name is Flint.
Oh, good to meet you, Master Flint. Could you
You
please
too.
go and get the permit?
Absolutely. You're welcome to come inside. Have a seat if you'd like.
I am on duty. Thank you for the offer. But
I mean, I wasn't suggesting a free drink, but if you want to come by after your shift, you're more than welcome. No, I thought you could just put your feet up.
are you perhaps suggesting a bribe, sir?
Absolutely not.
Roll a
Absolutely.
persuasion check.
I wasn't.
You
Bribe of
definitely- A
relaxation.
free drink is a bribe.
8.
No, the permit will do just fine, sir.
Right you are.
Just to check, so you're back at the pub now.
Yeah.
The others have left to go find you, correct?
Yeah.
Well, nobody's set off yet. We don't know.
They haven't left. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay.
So I'm just going to stroll over to the pub, and I'm going to close the door behind me.
Sir,
I'll be back in a bit. After all, I am going into my pub to fetch my permit. So I'll just I'll close the door. So I imagine I would have had a permit for my old boat
you did, yes.
because I docked in
You did.
Waterdeep.
Please
you
keep saying
didn't-
parked.
You didn't move it for some time, so the boat was confiscated.
Right, but would I still have my permit, or is it like a
You-
finite?
It's a finite thing.
Right, okay.
We're all just sitting looking at you.
Yeah, Flint,
Very
Flint has come.
suspiciously walked
Flint
in.
has come through the door as Lor'athel and Juniper were about to set off to find him.
Flint, we're just about to go down to the end of the docks to do a sort of burial at sea. Do you want to come?
Yes. One moment, and I'm just gonna rifle around in my bag, and I'm gonna take
We're
out
going now. and
the
I'll start
permit.
by-
Just wait a moment. Juniper, can I borrow Juniper very quickly?
Good Sir Elf. Do you have a friend in there called Flint? He was going to get his dock permit.
Flint, there's someone at the door for you.
No, I am still looking. Juniper.
Yeah, I go. Yes, Flint.
Could you copy that onto another bit of paper? But would you be able to maybe adjust the dates a little bit? If that's
Does Lor'athel know what Flint's trying to get?
Roll an insight check. Probably not from that expression.
9.
No, you're not sure.
He won't be a moment. He's just writing something.
Right? I think I need to.
I suppose I try and copy it. I don't really know what that would be in a check.
Well, do you have any forgery skills?
I mean,
Have you just assumed because she's a musician?
Well, I thought it would probably come under performance.
It would
Maybe.
come under sleight of hand, actually.
Oh, okay.
no, I have minor illusion.
Okay, I mean, minor illusion has to go up against a wisdom check of theirs, I believe.
Can I also do
So-
minor illusion for like a double crossing the stream kind of strong
To make it a minor illusion, thus
a
making
major
it a
illusion?
major illusion. I mean, there is major image, which is a different spell.
Yeah, but-
You can certainly try.
I think I hold the pen, and she realizes she doesn't know.
You know how to write.
She knows how to write.
She knows how to write. She just knows how to copy an entire legal form.
Can I try and do minor illusion to create, having looked at the old version,
Yeah,
so I know what should be on it? Can I try and create a new version?
yeah, definitely. Okay, so the minor illusion on a piece of parchment appears to be quite close to the previous one.
Okay.
Can I give it to someone? I can't I? So I'll give it to you,
Yeah.
and then I'll stay within
Yeah, that's
whatever
fine.
radius
that
it
works.
is.
Yeah.
I take the illusioned bit of paper and I just, there we go. There we
Oh,
go.
that took you a while. I thought you were trying to trick me.
No.
So he takes the piece of paper. Erallur, what is your spell DC?
Yes. 16.
Oh, who cares? I rolled a 2. So he goes, well, very good. Very good. See to you that you renew it on time. And,
Yeah, no, of course I will.
Here is your permit back. And,
Thank you very much.
Good day to you, Master Flint.
You too.
Can
you
I pop
too.
my head out and just go, make sure you spread the word amongst the guards that we are a legitimate business and we have a legitimate, what was it called, permit,
And a legitimate boat.
and to stop this from happening again, I'm sure it would save you a lot of time.
Roll the persuasion check.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a persuasion heavy session.
I love your sex tape.
23.
Well, I shall, young miss, I shall. Thank
That's
you
very
very
kind.
much.
Thank you.
Uh,
Have a good day.
You-
And
you-
please feel free to come back here to purchase some of our wares at some point. We are having an opening night party soon.
oh,
so
wonderful.
keep your eyes out.
Well, this is my beat, so I shall look out for the announcement.
So we'll be seeing more of you.
Be a
Well, I
pleasure
mean,
to host you.
The lady has invited me, so yes.
That she has. That she has.
Friends are helpful.
Good day to you all. And he wanders off and starts whistling.
I think Juniper hands Flint are terribly done.
I just look at it.
There's
Look-
doodles, there's musical notes, there's a rather crude drawing of the patrolman whistling.
I look at her. I look at it. I look at her. I just tickle the back of her ear and just, thank you very much. This will help.
Erallur, from somebody of more of a military background, I've got to say, saying we are a legitimate business, the first thing to arouse suspicion.
But it's true.
So we're going to become the guards' bar of choice. This will be a lively place.
It's very helpful having these types of people on your side.
I'm sure it is. I just hope they aren't averse to the dice game.
Is dice illegal here?
Depends on the game. Okay.
Well, take it to your room.
Don't attack. Your room is my room, is everybody's room.
Take it to your bed.
No.
Let's make sure there aren't too many law enforcement.
Is this
Okay.
where Lor'athel slowly slips into a life of crime?
Are you going to multi-class into rogue now?
No, not at all. This is it. This is the turning point. All I'm saying is, it's all right doing everything to the law, but when you want to have a night out, you don't want to go where the police go.
Okay.
Can we do
And
this?
I know.
Yeah.
Our
Okay,
draft
okay.
van was banging.
Lor'athel shakes his head and goes, like, I'm sorry, I was trying to be cool. Let's go in this bury this.
We could be like the pub in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Shores.
Nah.
That famous long-running play.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
About the watch, the guard.
in the Brooklyn district of
Yeah.
Waterdeep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's Brooke apostrophe Lynn.
Yeah.
Brook no Lins.
Okay, so did Juniper, Flint, and Lor'athel go off to Seabury the Hill?
Are you not coming as well?
No, I was just going to catch up with...
She can't come to the funeral of her friends. She's got admin.
We've done a funeral. You're burying the weapon that he killed his mother with.
Yeah, we head off.
Okay. Before that, Erallur, what do you catch up with
So
the others?
I sit them all down
Mhm.
in a nice quiet corner. I don't know if there's anyone else here.
No, there's not.
I just sit them down somewhere then.
A central room.
And I look at them all very fondly and say, I really appreciate all the work you've done here. Why are you laughing?
It sounds like you're about to fire.
I'm not going to fire them.
Never become a businesswoman.
But we've got to put you on furlough.
Too real, man.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
too much, it's too much.
Yeah, I've lost my
I'm
thread.
so sorry.
I don't really know how long it's been since I last saw you all. It feels like a very, very long time. And I don't really know if you know much about what's been going on and where we've been.
Oh, no, you didn't really explain much in your letter.
Well, fairly recently, I was in Fort Argent.
Oh, that
And-
can't have been fun.
It wasn't fun, but worse than that, I have some bad news. How do you... the whole place is gone.
Oh, dear.
Do they have family there? Do I
No.
know?
No,
Okay.
they didn't.
Ah!
Hence
My
why,
family.
Mrs. Orkins.
hence why they were able to follow you around.
Okay, good.
For
They're not sending
years.
money home. Like
No.
the only reason they're working for me is so they
No.
can support their
No.
families.
They came with you because they were loyal to you, and also you found out whilst you were at Forge Argent because your dad paid them to watch you.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
Okay.
like, well, for weeks, the letters I've been getting back have just said buzz buzz. I don't know.
So yeah, we were at Fort Argent. Long story short, we were chasing a great evil, and I, as you know, happens. I think I sort of dipped in and out of when I was with the others and left them to deal with the threat to Fort Argent, and it was a really rather large threat. And well, everyone except maybe 15 people was killed. The entire place is completely destroyed, and we led the few survivors to that place that I forget the name of literally every time.
Castle Hartwig.
Yes. And as far as I know, they are safe and looked after and, dare I say it, happy there. But the entire family line is ended, essentially. And it's all gone. And I thought I should be the one to tell you.
Oh, that's tough. So thank you for telling us. And Dawkins just kicks back his chair so that it falls over and storms out of the pub. And Hawkins looks at you both apologetically and then trots after him.
So which one's left? Hawkins.
Yeah.
And I just lean forward on the table to be more kind of, look, I know you are technically my employees, but I want you to know, and maybe you can tell the others when you think it's appropriate, that you're completely free to choose, and you always have been, but I want you to know that you're free to choose whether you stay working here with me and the others, or I'd understand if you want to go and pursue other things. Obviously, I would love for you to stay here, and I think you've made done a great job of setting this place up, and I think it would be nice to see it through together, but I don't want you to feel like you're obligated to stay.
Well, that's most kind, my lady. I mean, I can't speak for the others, but I'd like to see it through. I put a lot of hard grift and love into this place, and served you for a long time. And I can't say it's always been the safest course of action, but it's certainly been, the most exciting time of my life, and the most rewarding as well. And who knows? Maybe we could get permission. I mean, I know you know the Blackstaff, and she gave you the place. Maybe we could get permission to extend it a little bit, and then the boys and I could live in house, and we could all maybe make our own home here together.
That sounds wonderful.
All right, they'll come round. Dawkins, he'll calm down. But yeah, I can say that I would happily remain if that makes you happy.
Well, it's not about what makes me happy, it's about what makes you happy.
I appreciate that, but I wouldn't want you to feel obligated to keep me on just out of loyalty and old time's sake.
I would never feel obligated. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I'm trying to say a good thing.
Yeah, and he smiles and you see the tusks flash in the light.
I think this place is just as much all of yours as it is ours.
Well, let's make sure of that then. Back to work. Got an opening to sort out and a date to plan, and maybe Greengrass would be a good date to do it. It's coming up soon, and everybody likes new things in the spring, don't they? And
that's a good idea.
Willing to try new things. We could maybe do a part of the festival.
Great idea. And presumably that's not far away, so
no, it's about a week away now. I think.
Yeah, that sounds doable.
A 10-day, yeah,
cool. We can do that.
Okay, so we'll leave that there. The rest of you, do you walk far on the docks, or do you just walk to the edge? Because it's literally your pub is on the dock front.
I feel like we go to the end of the dock.
Yeah. So do you go down a pier, do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming there will be a couple of piers.
There's some fairly close. You attach your boat to one.
Yeah. I mean, would it make sense to? I mean, he came to the pub. Makes sense to do it here.
Yeah, saves the walk.
You got to when you're honouring your dead friend. It's like, it's the laziest course of action.
I would, but
By the way, can I see if I can catch up with them? I don't know how far ahead they'd be, but
not very far. They've
apparently
literally,
not far.
yeah, we can't be asked to walk.
I'm gonna arrive a bit late. But
So make a perception check, Erallur, quickly.
ooh, can't pick up my dice. 19 plus 6.
Yeah, so you spot them at the very end of the pier that juts out just to the left of the entrance to the pub. And you can see that there's a ship just docked outside.
Okay, nice boat.
Thank you very much.
You got a permit for that?
Working on it. So, feels odd to be doing this again.
Okay. So Lor'athel gets the hilt out and holds it up in front of him. Does anybody want to say anything?
We wish you could have seen it properly in business.
I think we did you proud, fella.
I hope he gets to see his mother.
And then I cast it over the edge.
It actually skips a little bit as it catches the water and then plunks beneath it. And you lose sight of it fairly quickly as it dips into the harbour. And as the late winter sunlight spreads across the water and your new boat bobs just outside your freshly refurbished pub. We will end the session there. Thank you very
Nice.
much for playing. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For next time, could you continue to think about what you might want to do in downtime? We are
I'm also
finally-
going to have some
I have
thoughts
a
about
list.
Yes, yeah.
the
I
ins
agree.
and outs of the
Yeah.
workings of this business.
Yeah.
I'm also going to think of names for the pub. So if anyone has any thoughts, send them to me. I will curate.
Okie doke. Yeah, sounds like a good
So,
plan.
in terms of forward planning, and I am saying this and I'm going to keep it in the recording, I'm thinking that it's probably going to be about a year that you have free.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
just, because all of your characters are very tired, and I feel like they do want to kind of go into semi-retirement for a bit. So think about some stuff that might fill that year, whether that's Lor'athel retraining if you wanted to still, because you talked about that a while ago.
I think that ship has sailed.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, think about some stuff you might want to do. Think about some journeys you might want to go on, other places, or if you do just want to stay in Waterdeep and build up the business. Flint, if you want to go out sailing or anything like that, just think about all that kind of stuff. And we will convene on the next episode, starting with that. If you want to do it in split, as in Juniper's year, Flint's year, Erallur's year, Lor'athel's year, that's absolutely fine. If you want to discuss and have stuff together, that's fine too. I'll amalgamate and I'll come to each of you as we do that.
The only thing I want to see is the opening party.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
I want a glimpse
We'll
of that,
definitely
please.
do that. Don't worry.
Why don't we each write our own individual things of what we want to do, and then we can possibly come together before the next one and just discuss joint?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
To see what stuff overlaps. And
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Sorry if it got a little bit heavy for people, both players and listeners. I appreciate that domestic abuse is a very real issue that a lot of people deal with from their day-to-day, and I will put a trigger warning on it for everybody just so that we can cover the sensitivity. Everybody who wants to say bye, say bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Ghost House.
That is not the title.
Yeah, it is in my heart.